Like a funhouse mirror, reggae has reflected as it has informed these shifts in Jamaican society and culture, as is especially audible in the transformation from roots reggae, the style of Bob Marley and Burning Spear, committed quite explicitly to community uplift and collective liberation, to dancehall reggae, where avatars such as Yellow Man and later Ninja Man, Cuddy Ranks and Shabba Ranks, or more recently Bounty Killer and Mavado, move the question of individual survival to center stage, an approach which justifies rapacious violence as it celebrates hard work and which embraces conspicuous consumption as a powerful form of self-fashioning in a world dominated by capital, both cultural and actual. While composing these remarks, I was reminded of a popular Cuddy Ranks recording, which remains resonant not just in reggae, but in hip-hop, inspiring other artists to sample, version, and otherwise allude to it. "Wait the man," Cuddy says, announcing his arrival. "A who that to come? Wait the man. Wanna think me did done?" He narrates his dominance of a reggae event, but also projects this musical, metaphorical arena out into the wider world, posing as a true gangster who packs real as well as lyrical heat. And yet, as with names taken from Westerns, Cuddy's bravado is so outsized as to deconstruct itself. "You want to test a rocket launcher?" he asks at the outset, reminding listeners frequently of his arsenal of weapons. The phrase that kept appearing in my head, however, and the phrase which has been replayed most often in the music of his admirers, is the threatening opening salvo. 6 million ways to die. Choose one.
6 million ways to die. Choose one.
What am I trying to do? Trying to test it. You want to test the rocket launcher? But let me tell you something. You're the original butcher. You're the chopper. Now the mercy. Here it is. Wait the man. Who that a call? Wait the man. Who the think me did call? Wait the man. Who that a call? Wait the man. Who the think me did done it? It had up. Say DJ Wang. Say don't make up it had up. Tell them to pop up and rub it up it had up. DJ Wang. Say don't make up it had up. Tell them to pop up and rub it up. Put the one to come off on the right. They have to stick out and divide. Admiral come off and they look before they use the gamma and pass it to the death. He's the Christ man. Give him a century. Electric chain. They go shock him to death. Wait the man. And who that a call? Wait the man. Who no think me did call? Wait the man. And who that a call? Wait the man. Who no think me did done?
So, followed by a menacing laugh and a series of absurdly violent scenarios involving electric chairs, fellow entertainers being boxed to death. Cuddy clearly revels in puffing himself up as a bad man par excellence, but he also, on occasion, underscores the metaphorical dimension of his discourse. "Me lyrics them afire like a bullet from a gun," he says. And yet at the same time he places himself firmly, if perhaps dissonantly, in a tradition of chanting down Babylon and achieving liberation through a kind of cultural warfare. "This ragamuffin, me a chant dum dum, strictly culture lyrics, come for freedom." Ambiguous, yes? Tellingly, these days when a reggae artist, a DJ descendant of Cuddy Ranks, narrates tales of ghetto life, even when depicted in the cartoonish terms of Hollywood and hip-hop, he's said to be chatting not just culture lyrics, but reality lyrics. Reality is reality, zine. But as Rastafarians imply with terms such as downpression, overstanding, head-dication, and shitstem, we also understand reality and make reality with the terms and forms through which we represent it. Not only must we pick our battles then, carrying the metaphor forward, hesitant as I may be to do so, we must also choose our weapons, which is to say, for those of us working especially in the poetics of prose and speech acts, that we must choose our words wisely. The language we employ is crucial. By no means am I proposing we speak in euphemisms. That sort of cynical exercise, for example, rebranding acts of torture as enhanced interrogation techniques, should be anathema to most of us by now. Indeed, in the spirit of resisting desensitization, I'm proposing nothing less than calling, if you will, a blade a blade. I'm reminded of an incisive routine by the late George Carlin, who bemoaned the progressively obscurantist language used by the government to paper over the tragedies, the injuries, the debilitating violence of war. Actually, along these lines, he'd no doubt prefer that I refer to him as dead rather than late. Never mind passed away, which is how he ends the bit. I'm going to play you the first part of the bit so you can hear him talking about a certain class of euphemisms.
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms or euphemistic language. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse. I'll give you an example of that. There's a condition in combat, most people know about it. It's when a fighting person's nervous system has been stressed to its absolute peak and maximum, can't take any more input. The nervous system has either snapped or is about to snap. In the First World War, that condition was called shell shock. Simple, honest, direct language, 2 syllables, shell shock. Almost sounds like the guns themselves. That was 70 years ago. Then a whole generation went by, and the Second World War came along, and the very same combat condition was called battle fatigue. 4 syllables now. Takes a little longer to say. Doesn't seem to hurt as much. Fatigue is a nicer word than shock. Shell shock. Battle fatigue. Then we had the war in Korea in 1950. Madison Avenue was riding high by that time, and the very same combat condition was called operational exhaustion. Hey, we're up to 8 syllables now. And the humanity has been squeezed completely out of the phrase. It's totally sterile now. Operational exhaustion. Sounds like something that might happen to your car. Then, of course, came the war in Vietnam, which has only been over for about 16 or 17 years. And thanks to the lies and deceit surrounding that war, I guess it's no surprise that the very same condition was called post-traumatic stress disorder. Still 8 syllables, but we've added a hyphen. And the pain is completely buried under jargon. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I'll bet you, if we'd have still been calling it shell shock, some of those Vietnam veterans might have gotten the attention they needed at the time. I'll bet you that. I'll bet you that.